here's Brody Brazil.
You know, I think I can admit this here on the YouTube channel that I make too many videos that are overcomplicated. Like, I take you way too deep into the weeds way too often. I overthink things, I overanalyze them, I talk about them way too much instead of doing what that old sports saying suggests. You know, keep it simple, stupid. So let's do that here on this video. Let's make this all about the for and against factors for the A's and their efforts to relocate to Las Vegas. Put another way, what are the things that might help them in this desired process of theirs? And what things might be roadblocks and stand in their way of landing in Southern Nevada as a brand new home? I should also say this from the very beginning. This video really has nothing to do with the Oakland side of things. I realize maybe when you hear me talking about the against Las Vegas factors, that might mean they're also for the A's staying in Oakland. I don't know at this point if those two things can even be connected. That's a totally different topic for a totally different video. So let's just keep it on this, the Las Vegas aspect, for and against. But before I give you those, I actually need to begin yesterday with MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred. He's in Wisconsin at the Brewers ballpark. He's talking to the media because he's in town to kind of suggest that this venue needs like $500 million for repairs and improvements. That's right, $450 million he's trying to push either the team to pay or local or state government to pay. He just wants this venue to be up to what they say is MLB standards. I wasn't aware it wasn't up to those standards. Anyway, that's the backstory of why he's here, why he's in front of the media. But again, because there's cameras and reporters, they're inevitably going to ask him about the Oakland situation, and here's what he said.
I think they're pretty settled on a site, the MGM site. I think they have an agreement. It's really now a question of getting a finalized financing package that would allow them to build on that site. I think you'd have to ask the mayor of Oakland that. I mean, she said she had cut off negotiations after an announcement was made in Las Vegas. I don't have a crystal ball as to where anything's going. There's not a definitive deal done in Las Vegas, and we'll have to see how that plays out. It's possible that a relocation vote could happen as early as June. It's very difficult to have a timeline for Oakland until there's actually a deal to be considered. There is a relocation process internally that they need to go through, and we haven't even started that process.
Okay, in some ways that was a lot, and in other ways I didn't get hardly anything out of that. So I'm going to summarize the main points here, beginning with settling on a site. The MGM site? He misspoke, right? He meant the Tropicana site. Or is there a different MGM site, or is there something I'm not aware of? I think he's saying the Tropicana site. Let's go ahead and assume that, because the Trop site is already number 2. Remember the Wild Wild West site, 49 acres west of the Strip, west of I-15? That was first. That was the binding land purchase agreement that apparently wasn't so binding. Then the A's refocused. 9 acres for a retractable roof stadium on the Tropicana Hotel site with Bally's Corporation and GLPI. So there's even talk now, because the language that the A's are reportedly going to present to Nevada legislature, it's not even site-specific when it asks for public funding. That's right, the public funding request is not even site-specific. Like, wouldn't you want to know that if you were a lawmaker and approving this? Like, where are you actually going to put this money in use and in place? Anyway, from Manfred's perspective, and there was some talk that maybe the A's would even be exploring a third site officially. And there are other ones that unofficially they've talked about or talked to the owners of, but officially we're on site number 2. There was question of whether there would actually be site number 3. So according to Manfred, maybe don't expect a site 3 as of right now. He also said that Mayor Sheng Tao was the one that cut off negotiations when the A's had their Vegas announcement. But in reality, the A's made the first announcement by saying that they're done pursuing anything in Oakland. And then the mayor was the one who went back and said, well, we're also done. To be clear, that's Mr. Manfred's perspective and spin on this, but I think, like, obviously the way it went down on the night of April 19th, the A's said, we're shifting our focus to Las Vegas. We're turning it away from Oakland. And Mayor Sheng Tao said, we will not be a factor in the negotiations here. We will not be negotiated against if we're not working together anymore. So interesting that that's his perspective. He also said that he doesn't have a crystal ball. Well, he knows a lot of things. He's the commissioner of baseball. He's got a lot of inside contacts, and he's able to find out information that he wants, but I think he's trying not to predict anything or trying not to give you literally any kind of instinct he has towards anything because he doesn't want to be wrong down the road. But it is interesting to hear somebody at the top using a reference like, I don't have a crystal ball. He also suggests that at the earliest, an MLB owner vote on relocation could happen in June. Now, the owners' meetings, I want to say, are June 14th, 15th, 16th, 13th, 14th, 15th, mid-June, a little bit before mid-June. I'm imagining they're in New York, just guessing. But he's saying that this vote could happen by that time. As I record this, we've got a couple days left in May. We're literally 2 weeks and change until these owners' meetings. And my last point here, my last topic, is that the internal relocation process with Major League Baseball hasn't even started yet. Is this an overnight thing? Can you get it done in 2 days and then they could take a vote on it? It just seems like with this bottom part not being done yet, how could you even talk about the earliest a vote could happen? I mean, sure, I guess that's the earliest, but is that even realistic to happen at this speed, at this pace? Just, it doesn't sound like it. Okay, let's talk about the things that the A's have in their favor for relocating to Las Vegas. Number one, obviously they're working with the Bally's Corporation. They have found a landowner and a casino operator and partner. And I think this is a huge deal, especially and specifically in Las Vegas. Yeah, land is important, but working with a casino that's got some influence, that's got some ability, that's got some muscle, that's got a name to it, that's got a vision attached to it, right? The A's would develop the stadium on 9 acres, and then the rest of the 35-acre site, 35 minus 9, do the math, whatever's left after the 9 acres, Bally's Corporation is going to tear down the old Tropicana Hotel, build a brand new Bally's property that their chairman, Sue Kim, said would be a sports-themed resort, right? So that's what Bally's is going to do. So it's got some weight to it that the A's have a teammate in this. Before the Bally's thing, they really didn't have, even with the Wild Wild West casino site, they really didn't have an influential partner in Las Vegas. Now they do. That should help this process. The A's are also persistent to meet deadlines. Like, they've got to get language introduced to lawmakers, like, by the next couple days here. They've also got the clock ticking on January 14th, 2024. That's when MLB's revenue sharing would end if they're not able to have a binding stadium agreement in Oakland or somewhere else. So the A's are very urgent in this process. And it almost feels like that old saying, the squeaky wheel is eventually going to get oiled. I think another huge factor is that Governor Joe Lombardo, in his first term and literally in his first couple months of office as governor of the state of Nevada, he's very much on board. When the A's put out their initial release, if you will, or when news broke that night that they were focusing on Nevada, the governor was quoted. I mean, he has been behind this the entire time. I don't know the connection he has ever had with the A's, but certainly he is favorable of this project happening. He is a main factor of trying to push it through. And I also think that some lawmakers who would have a vote on this, and it really doesn't matter the party, Democratic or Republican, some lawmakers could look at this vote and look at this opportunity as the chance to boost their own profile a little bit. I mean, it literally is up to lawmakers here. If they approve this, the public funding, then you know the project can start, right? And we'll talk about the responsibilities of payments and bonds and all that stuff later, but all it takes here is approval. And then the people who approved it are the ones who essentially brought baseball, MLB, to Las Vegas. because there doesn't really need to be much after that. The MLB owners, they're going to have that vote eventually, whether it's in June or whether it's in the fall. 75% of them need to vote yes on the relocation process internally with Major League Baseball. But that almost seems like a formality. If the A's get this public money, it's a wrap. So that's kind of also for the Las Vegas thing happening here, is that all you need is a vote, and that's it. I mean, I know there's going to be traffic studies, and there's going to be an environmental impact report, and all the procedural stuff. The FAA is going to have to get involved and look at things, but I don't imagine anything along those lines to be a total roadblock, maybe a speed bump here or there. But yeah, lawmakers realize that this is entirely in their hands, and they have the ability to literally change the landscape on the south side of the Strip. Okay, let's switch gears here. How about some things that are against Las Vegas in this actually happening? Senate leader in the state of Nevada, Nicole Cannizzaro, tweeted this out yesterday. It's the job of the Nevada legislature to pass a balanced budget. That's what we've done. Now the governor has an obligation to agree to fund the state, and we expect him to live up to it. Here's her statement with Speaker Steve Yeager. Quote, passing a balanced state budget is our first and most important obligation as a legislature, and that's exactly what we've done. These 5 bills include an overwhelming number of bipartisan priorities and represent a major step forward in improving K through 12 and higher education, retaining a functional state and public safety workforce, investing in better healthcare services, building critical infrastructure, and saving record amounts for reserves. The legislature will finish its regular session business on time by June 5th. If the governor forces us into a special session because he vetoes the state budget, we will not consider any other bills during that special session except the state budget. The governor has an obligation to agree to fund the state, and we expect him to live up to it. End quote. Now, the governor released his own counterstatement just shortly after this, but the Senate here leans Democratic right now, and the way it's being put here is that if you have to go to a special session because of the state budget, none of the other votes on the table will actually take place. And there are other important votes for like the Sony Pictures property, basically a Hollywood movie studio, would come out to Southern Nevada and be part of Clark County. So there are other kind of things out there, other benefits that the state of Nevada maybe won't see because of the political divide, Democratic and Republican right now, in this state over the budget, the first and foremost thing over the budget. Here's also a number of things that are kind of against Las Vegas in this actually happening. Number one, we really don't know what public opinion is on this so far. And I don't mean the comments you'll see down below or what people are saying on social media. That's kind of a taste and a sampling. It's not the true reality. What will people say when there's time for public commentary? And what will lawmakers do when it's time to listen to their constituents? What if the response is either overwhelmingly super positive, but in reality, like we haven't heard much of a grassroots push for the public to tell lawmakers to vote yes on publicly funding this ballpark project. I'll just say the opinion is unknown. And that alone could go against the votes that actually take place in this process. We also don't know the participation level by Clark County, and they are completely important. They're the ones that would have to float out the bonds that would obviously pay for the ballpark's construction. It would help fund the $300 and something million of public funding to help build the ballpark, but the bonds will eventually need to be serviced, essentially paid back. And if the ballpark itself doesn't generate the revenue to pay back the bonds, who's responsible for that? And that's what Clark County is curious about. That's what they're concerned about. That's why they're maybe not fully interested in this process. They're also a little bit leery because they are the ones that are largely responsible for funding Allegiant Stadium. They're the ones, Clark County, that implemented a, 0.88% hotel tax. And they had some issues. They've had to dip into their reserves twice already. Now, once was because of the pandemic, but they've had to dip into reserves twice just to make sure that funding for Allegiant Stadium, which is still being paid for, could actually continue. So they're a little bit burned by that now and not exactly eager, we think, to jump back in. Remember the joint statement from a couple days ago between the governor's office, some lawmakers, and the A's? Well, who was quoted for Clark County? Clark County was quoted. I don't know that anybody said the quote from Clark County about being responsible with their bonds. Anyway, it's unknown, and maybe they'll be forced into participating. Maybe they'll put up a fight and be a reason that this does not happen. How about those other public funding commitments? I mean, you can't just grow money on trees and hand out, hey, here's $100 million here, $100 million there, $200 million there. I believe it is Sony Pictures that's trying to acquire about $200 million of public funding for their project to build a movie studio. I don't even know the location, somewhere on the outskirts of Las Vegas or in Clark County. And there are several other projects and public subsidies to be voted on here. So it's not just the A's asking. There are other interested parties. And if you realize you can't foot the bill for everything, what stays, what goes, what gets a yes, and what gets a no. And on that note, I mean, here's what goes against Las Vegas. As much as I said before that lawmakers just vote yes and this thing's a wrap, if they vote no, I'm not saying it's forever a wrap, but it certainly derails the A's from their timeline. And that's my last point here. If this is a delay, we'll take this up another time, or we just can't pass this right now. A delay also kind of means no. Now, there might be other ways for the A's to acquire the $300-400 million gap it seems they have to finance the $1.5 billion ballpark. Maybe they'll find that money some other way. Maybe this is only their first effort. I said before, they're kind of like the squeaky wheel that is going to get oiled some way, somehow. But a delay kind of means no. I mean, no means no, but a delay also means no, especially with the A's timelines and trying to stay on MLB revenue sharing. So will the A's continue their pursuits if it's a delay or if it's a no? Those are the things I think go against Las Vegas. So there you go, the for and against Las Vegas. Hopefully that was straight up. I mean, there are some clear things for, there are some clear things working against Las Vegas right now in this process. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Hey, you watched all the way here till the end of the video, like almost 20 minutes worth. I appreciate you. Give me a thumbs up down below. That'll help this video. Also, don't forget right now, subscribe to this channel if you're not, so that I can see you next time.